How much food did the Calgary police take out of the mouths of homeless people because they decided they should be ticketing you for doing such a good thing?
I'm not going to have the money to spend on outreach supplies. I'm not going to have the money to spend on any kind of resources, because now it's spent on tickets if it doesn't get thrown out.
It is beginning to look like Canadian police officers are using this pandemic to specifically target those of Christian faith. If you're practicing it, you're liable to getting a fine from a police officer in Canada of upwards of $1,200. It's happened in Ontario. My colleague David Menzies has covered those, and it's also happening here in Alberta, in Calgary. Two very similar cases. A fellow by the name of Arthur with a street church who was feeding the homeless got a ticket of $1,200 about 2 weeks ago. And similarly, a fellow by the name of Derek who preaches with Street Church Mission 7 is what it's called. He got a very similar ticket of also $1,200 for feeding the homeless. You just can't make this stuff up. Now, this isn't just feeding everyday homeless folks. These are the poorest of the poor, folks who aren't even allowed to go to regular shelters because they're unruly. This is real Christian outreach. This is doing real good for the community, a service that nobody else is doing, and the police are ticketing them for doing this. You're not going to believe it. I spoke with Derek on Skype to get his side of the story.
Derek, thanks so much for joining me today. I really am interested to hear about your story when you were given a ticket by the Calgary police. It's a very similar story to what we've heard from a similar church in Calgary. We spoke with a gentleman named Arthur, and we're kind of curious, does it seem like the Calgary police are specifically following and charging Christian outreach groups in downtown Calgary?
Yeah, it definitely appears that way, and even possibly attacking Art and his church as well, because we saw some differences because we were down at the DI, and the same officer who ticketed Art came, but then it didn't bother him what we were doing. He said, as long as the group doesn't get too big, you can preach and you can feed the homeless, that doesn't bother me. And we have that all captured on film and left with that. So we go out there and we feed the homeless and we preach the gospel and we pray for the sick. And it wasn't very even busy on the streets because it's very desolate in Calgary. But there were a bunch of us out there, and cops came, and a couple of weeks ago they were warning me, and we were back out there. We just keep doing it. Cops came right at the beginning, and they were watching, and so they hung out for the next hour and a half, and then ticketed us. Be that as it may, we'll be out there this weekend on the corner of Stephen Avenue and 2nd Street and doing what we're called to do.
How much food did the Calgary police take out of the mouths of homeless people because they decided they should be ticketing you for doing such a good thing?
I'm not going to have the money to spend on outreach supplies. I'm not going to have the money to spend on any kind of resources, because now it's spent on tickets if it doesn't get thrown out.
I'm curious. We have done the same sort of thing with Art, and we're doing it with folks across Canada who we feel have had their civil liberties violated. We're offering a lawyer to anyone who wants it, who wants to fight against this tyranny of the state. And we're wondering if you would want me to put you in contact with the lawyer, and we'll fight this fine for you.
Yeah, that would be amazing, and we would appreciate that so much, especially as we continue to pursue our calling here and anticipate some more grief from the police officers and possibly more tickets. But, we're just trusting God in this. And I believe that this is totally a godsend too. You guys stepping in, just helping us. So, we appreciate that a lot. Thank you.
Now, as Rebel News is doing with all of these violations of our basic civil liberties, we are referring Derek to our lawyer. I'm getting on the phone with Sarah right now.
I have another case here for you. It's a situation in Calgary where another Christian pastor, it's a sort of a street church situation where they were feeding the homeless, got another ticket from the Calgary police for not enforcing social distancing. Do you think that there might be some sort of abuse of power going on here directed directly towards Christian pastors?
I think definitely there is a concern here. Suddenly just these pastors are being ticketed. Part of the group of 15 or larger than 15 requires that there be a number of individuals besides just a pastor that would be targeted for this, especially considering the good work that they're doing in the community by feeding those who are vulnerable and living on the streets and working poor. So that's definitely concerning as far as a pattern.
Now, I'm not a lawyer, but I would assume that this case will go and take a similar trajectory as the one that we spoke about earlier with Art, with the other church that was targeted. Same fine, $1,200. Do you see any sort of differences, or do you sort of think that it is going to be sort of the same cookie cutter case because the police are sort of approaching in such similar fashions the same people?
Yeah, so a lot of our charter arguments are probably going to be along the same lines regarding an equal treatment by religion and equal treatment under the law, and whether or not any of these charges are appropriate in the circumstances or proportional.
Great, honey. So if you're good to take the case, I'll go back, chat with Derek, and we'll get you guys in touch, and hopefully we'll fight this and fight back against the tyrannical state that we're seeing grow here under this pandemic.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm looking forward to being able to help both these individuals.
Canadians have many absolute rights, but they're starting to be forgotten. We have the right to freedom of speech. We have the right to freedom of religion. We have the right to peaceful assembly. These aren't optional things that the government can apply when they want to. It doesn't apply just during the good times. It applies during the bad times. It applies during times of war. It applies during times of pandemic. We have these rights, and they're not allowed to be confiscated by the government. If you or someone who you know is in a similar situation to this, if you've had your civil liberties violated by the state, a state that has just too much time on their hands clearly right now, go to fightthefines.com. We'll help you out. For Rebel News, I'm Keean Bexte. Like I just said, go to fightthefines.com and you can check out all of our coverage. And if you want to pitch in to help us fight the fines of other people whose civil liberties have been violated, please do so there.